Just how good are the Buffalo Bills? Just how bad are the New England Patriots? And how should things go in Week 17 of the NFL? That's all coming up on the latest edition of the Buffalo Plus Podcast.
All right, welcome into the Buffalo Plus Podcast presented by BuffaloPlus.com. Mike Catalana, Dan Fetes, yours truly. I'm Jenna, Cottrell. We're getting set. The Bills have been playing phenomenal as of late. The game against the Patriots, the domination against the Patriots, just another example. Mike, I mean, what do you make of just the strengths that this team has, especially now approaching 2021 and the playoffs that are right around the corner?
Yeah, they're playing better than any team in the NFL right now. They're blowing people out. They are dictating what they do. They are the team now that we all talked about them becoming someday. Well, it's here right now. It's still the regular season. I get it. There's going to be a lot of pressure on this team when they take the field for that first playoff game because, you know, you can have big expectations. Look at the Baltimore Ravens last year after a great season, but you got to finish it off and you got to win in the playoffs. I get that. But in the regular season right now, they are playing better than every team in the NFL.
It's crazy to hear that, but also, Dan, like that is accurate. You've seen Allen be able to make plays the way Stephon Diggs is, the defense turning a corner, special teams pulling things together as well. Like this team is playing at a level that I don't think we could have expected.
Yeah, and I don't think the Bills could have really drawn up a better season. Like if Sean McDermott had to dream up his year, it would probably be something similar to this, a couple losses to learn a lesson in weird spots. And everybody kind of saying like, well, yeah, they're winning games, but they're not that good. You know, the offense isn't, you know, the defense isn't playing well in the beginning of the season. And Sean and Leslie Frazier and Brian Dable all kind of being like, well, you want to be peaking at the right time. They said they wanted to be peaking around December, January. You want to be playing your best football. They're playing their best football. They're playing the best football, like Mike said, in the NFL right now. So everything has kind of gone according to plan. The process has kind of been picture perfect here in 2020. They've handled COVID. They've been able to, you know, block out distractions. You know, they've kind of had to deal with some adversity, you know, here and there. You know, we look at Quentin Spain's no longer around and how they've pieced together a new offensive line. But it's all worked. And you know, Sean and Jenna, we talked about it after the game yesterday on Buffalo Plus, but just the fact that going into the season, Sean McDermott said the thing that kept him up at night was Josh Allen's development. He's got to be sleeping like a baby now. Is because he's playing, you know, like I said, I don't know if he wins the MVP, Mike, but he's having an MVP caliber season. Whether or not he wins it is one thing. That's a separate conversation. But it's an MVP caliber year. If he wins it, he could do it. You know, he deserves to do it. If he doesn't, you understand where it goes to Aaron Rodgers probably. But
right. And I was going to say it's taken a phenomenal season by one of the all-time greats in Rodgers, and a phenomenal season by the soon-to-be all-time great in Mahomes to beat him out this year. Many, many, many seasons, Josh Allen's year would win it. Now, could he still win it? I guess that narrative can change, and Rodgers has won it before, and Mahomes has won it, and sometimes the writers who get one vote,
it's the story.
It's the story, and Allen's is a great story.
It's a really good story.
I said he has not.
Unless you're right. Yeah, and it's a terrible story.
Yeah, it doesn't want to give him his due. I say coming into this year, we needed him to do something. He has not taken one small step for Buffalo man. He's taken the giant leap for Bills mankind. How about that for a long T-shirt?
You are so proud of yourself.
I was, and I got it out exactly the way I wanted to say it.
That was amazing.
Yeah, come on.
I agree. Well,
it feels like a lunar landing for the Bills to be one of the best teams in the NFL.
I think that's just what to me has been so wild. It's like the transformation of the franchise, especially this year. Like coming into the season, there was talk of, the Bills, like we'll see if they can pull it all together. But to see Allen and the way that this offense has really stepped things up in these last couple of months. And also, I feel like you talk about the narrative in terms of the MVP race. Like I feel like those losses against the Chiefs and the Titans earlier on in the season. I know I said this yesterday on Buffalo Plus of like a lot of fans jumped off the bandwagon, but I feel like, you know, when you talk about a story, people wrote off Josh Allen after those games. Even the Patriots game, the first time they played him, he did not look well, like he played well. He did not have a good game. The Bills had to rely on running the ball and that fumble at the end of the game to win that game. And I think to see the transformation process that he has made is that, to me, is the story of the season. In terms of, will he be named an NFL MVP? We don't know, but when you're having an MVP type caliber season, that's what matters.
Well, Jenna, it goes back to, you go back to the two games they lost, back to back in Kansas City and Tennessee. I think it goes back farther than that, where people wrote him off. I think it goes back to the second half in Houston, where everybody got to say, see, he's inconsistent. He couldn't do it. He can't even play a complete game. The big lights got too big for him. And in all the primetime games, Mike, he has stepped up. He has thrown for more touchdown passes in Foxborough than Cam Newton has this year. And can you believe 31 other teams passed on Cam Newton, guys?
Can't believe it. I will say this. He deserves some of the criticism from that Houston game and coming into this year. But his step, we talked about it, what we saw Lamar do in year 2, what you saw Mahomes do. And we thought, okay, Allen's not there, but if he can make a step of progress. And look, I admit it. I thought Josh could improve. I thought he could get better. When he was named one of the top 100 players in the NFL on our podcast, I said, he's not in the top 200 right now. He hasn't thrown for 300 yards, and that, not just the statistical part, the idea that the passing game could carry the team. And now 300 yards is like, okay, take me out of the game. I'll get 400, right? Exactly. It's like he does that with regularity. He has become that guy. It just was in year number 3. And, for many reasons, they weren't ready for him. He wasn't ready for it in year 1. But year 2, he was a lot better. And year 3, he has been spectacular. He's had plenty of help. I don't think we can say enough about Stefon Diggs and what he's meant to this team. He has been honestly, he's having the best season of any Bills wide receiver in history. And you got a Hall of Famer. You got Eric Moulds, who, when he and Flutie got together, I have to say, it was for a brief period of time, but it was really special to see Moulds, who was considered sort of a bust for a couple of years, and then he exploded. The Bills haven't had that very much in their history. And this guy's year, and it's not just numbers, big plays, big moments, game breaking like he did against New England. He's dominating the game at the wide receiver position, which is something to see.
I loved yesterday when he was wagging his finger.
Well, it just looks easy. And we talked about last year that the bad Josh Allen is when it looks like backyard football. And it looks like backyard football now at times, but it's good backyard football. It's like that Aaron Rodgers, Tony Romo, when the play breaks down, Big Ben in his prime, when the play broke down is almost when Josh is the most dangerous again. I mean, you saw that third touchdown pass. They sweep everybody to the right. Josh spins to the left and then makes a throw, and was asked about it after the game. Like, did you do that on your own, or was that kind of designed that way? And Josh kind of goes, can't really tell you all the secrets about our plays. And like I said, I asked Josh about how he every single time they've shown him, especially these last 9 weeks, he's just been smiling. And we talked at nauseum probably about how happy Stefon Diggs is. But this is just a completely different team where it just doesn't even seem like the same team from 2 years ago. Yeah.
And when you talk about the two guys ahead of him in the MVP race, or likely ahead of him, certainly by the Vegas odds and all those things, they have special talents. And I think what makes Rodgers so good is he's so accurate and he's so calm and poised. He gets back there. He's always looking downfield. He goes through all his progressions. Allen does a lot of that. He does a lot of that and does a lot of it well. Not at the level of Rodgers yet. And Rodgers' accuracy is off the charts.
Right.
Mahomes makes plays, not necessarily out of nothing, but Dan, you talked about this earlier in the year, about the guy getting to that second pocket and creating that again. That's what Mahomes does better than anybody.
Yep.
Josh is close to him. I mean, he's not Mahomes yet. We're not saying he's better than Mahomes.
No, but
he's
that's
having that year this year. Yeah.
Well, it's the difference of Josh used to be the guy that I always said was kind of like the duck on the water, where underneath, like the duck looks calm up top, but underneath it just looked like he couldn't wait to leave clean pockets. And part of that was probably because the O-line was so bad his rookie year. But now the O-line is playing so well. It's like Josh has all of this time. You talk about Mike going through his progressions like Rodgers, where it's like, all right, not here, not there. Oh, you're open now. And then he can throw a seed. And then you still see Josh where he rolls to his right, and it's like, don't throw it across your body, Josh. You're not supposed to. But Mahomes does it, and it's like, well, Patrick Mahomes can do it. Josh did that a couple times last night where it was like ropes on the run, running to his right, where it's like, I can't remember who's calling the game, but whether it was Louis Riddick or Brian Greasy said, like, that's elite level talent, that what he can do, being accurate while running to his right, where he's like, the Patriots can't let him roll to the right. Like they gotta prevent him from doing something. And it's crazy to hear that. Again, I understand the Patriots are not a very good team, but it's still Bill Belichick coaching him. And you want to know what? Josh has still kind of struggled against the Patriots in his career. And so a lot of demons were exercised. And one of the best posts I saw was, this wasn't a passing of the torch, Jenna. The Bills just ripped the torch from the Patriots. Like, it's ours now, and deal with it.
Yeah, I know we're going to get to how bad the Patriots are in a second, but I also want to say, isn't it nice to see everyone in the country catch up to the Buffalo Plus podcast? And all of a sudden, it's like Brian Daboll is going to be a head coach in the NFL. Yeah. We've been telling people that all year when people were still, for whatever reason, questioning some of the things he's doing. Because everybody can question individual play calls. Run it on second down, you try the revert, whatever it is. When it doesn't work, it's a bad play call. Other than when you throw it to Dawson Knox in the end zone and he drops it. But when it doesn't work, you blame the play caller. Daboll is magical this year with this team and his play calls. Spreads the ball around. Comes up with creative ways in the red zone. All those things. Uses Allen's skills to the utmost and has developed the quarterback. I think right now, I won't say every job is the perfect fit for him, but he should be top 3 candidate around the league. And I know everybody loves the guy in Kansas City, but he doesn't have Andy Reid with him.
Yeah.
Daboll's done more with less.
Well, at least less that was proven in that way.
Yeah.
But I think the idea of having, now look, guys have had success that have come out of that Andy Reid tree. I get that part. But in this case, look, and I think Eric Bieniemy is going to get a head coaching job this year, and he may be great. But Brian Daboll is running this offense for a defensive head coach.
Yes.
And he's going to get it. I would be stunned if he's not offered jobs and doesn't take one of them.
I think it's inherently more responsibility for Daboll being the offensive coordinator for a defensive head coach. And also Bieniemy, like under Andy Reid, it's a different situation. You see the athleticism that Josh Allen has. Obviously, Patrick Mahomes is a player that was the one that kind of founded those Mahomes-like plays. But I think what I've been interested to see with Allen is, I think because Patrick Mahomes made those no-look crazy cross-body passes, it gave Allen, who is the natural athlete, that ability to incorporate that more into his game. And then when he was able to develop that Rodgers type of having the accuracy, being able to be a bit calmer, the moment's not too big, it's like Allen can pull from those places and it makes his game better and more understandable. Because I feel like before, Josh had the arm strength, but he was making bad decisions. He was throwing it to triple coverage or finding the fullback in the flat. You know what I mean? Like things like that where you're like, no. But now this year having, and I said this on Buffalo Plus, like it's backyard football to Josh Allen, but I mean this in the best way because the moment's not too big.
Yeah. Hey, Dan, you said that he's like the duck where it's underneath. He's paddling. He's going crazy. But there have been times when above the water, we've seen him going crazy too. And you don't see that anymore. You don't see it anymore. He is calm.
I think of Houston, and that I think that was the crucible moment for Josh, and having that be on the national scale, and frankly, being somewhat embarrassed by that. I think that sticks with the type of guy Allen is. And obviously you don't want those failures, those losses, but they motivate you. My dad was saying that, like, if you've never lost, that means you haven't played enough.
Yeah, and I even go back to Jenna. We saw Houston Josh in the second half against the Rams when things were really bad, and things were like, but guess what? He settled himself down, led a game-winning touchdown drive. Like that is the difference. Where in last year they got off to a slow start. It was almost like the game was over. Like Josh would either get too hyped or it just Josh. Jenna, your great tweet yesterday about like realizing that when Belichick throws the phone and Josh is still 24. Like we act like he's playing, and Stephon Diggs was asked about it in the maturity that he has shown of he's making reads and throws like a veteran quarterback, which again was the knock that he'll never be able to do that, and that he'll never be able to increase his completion percentage and do all these things. And he's pretty much rewritten the Bills' record books this year.
And I think it's also the realization that he doesn't have to do it all himself. Like he has talented players that he doesn't have to put the entire team on his back and will his way down. Like you have players like Diggs and like Beasley, and just the ability to have time because the O-line is playing better. It's like all of those pieces have helped him grow to the point of the realization of, okay, it's not all on me. Now,
we've been very positive. This team forces you to speak in positive terms because they have been so good. This is not a negative. This is sort of a warning. As they get into the playoffs, I think there is a ton of pressure on the Bills in that first game. And I will go back to the Ravens because the Ravens had the great regular season.
Yeah.
Lamar Jackson overcame a bad playoff moment to come back the next year and have an MVP season. He actually won it and silenced a lot of his critics. And he did. Now, he plays differently than Josh. I accept that. I know that's different. But that's a good Ravens team with a coach who's won a Super Bowl before, and they went out in the playoffs and got beat. And that has added even more pressure to them this year coming in. They're a different team. It's a little different now because they're not coming in as the favorite, but they still haven't won that playoff game. I think for Josh, I do think there's a lot of pressure in that first game. And as great as everything is right now, and I'm putting this out there because there's going to be a very good team that they're going to play. Maybe not a great team, but a very good team in that first playoff game. And there is way more pressure on the Bills, even than the Ravens at the moment, because of their record, and they will be home. I know what you're going to say, but I think most people now consider Allen the better quarterback. The Bills have had a better season. Yes, in total for Lamar Jackson's history, if they play Baltimore, it's more on Lamar. But this year, that would be redemption 1,000% for Lamar, and it would be crushing for the Bills. I don't think that's happening. I think they're good enough to win. I think they're good enough to get to the Chiefs, but you'll be ready for that because you guys even referenced, players talking about it. They've been underdogs. They were favorites in Foxborough. They're favorites now. They were
touchdown favorites in Foxborough.
Yeah.
Like it wasn't a point. It was a full touchdown. So yeah. And those guys have said it. I asked, John Feliciano was asked about what did this mean to beat Big Brother and set these records and all, they've scored the second most points in a season in franchise history and all this stuff. And he's like, yeah, it's cool, but like none of this means anything if we don't go out and take care of business in the postseason. He's like, it's whatever. And that's been the Bills' motto when they got win number 7 and win number 8 and win number 9 and like so on and so forth. So like it stinks that they've had to play 16 games to get another shot to get playoff redemption. But, that's kind of the role you have to take. It's not like the MLB or the NBA where you have a bad game and you're playing again in 24 hours. Yeah. This is going to be a year wait. And I do believe that there is pressure. I will disagree with you, Mike. I think the Ravens have just way more pressure because if Lamar can't do it this year, that gets hung over his head like not being able to be in the Super Bowl.
Right, but here's the difference. This year, they will be on the road and underdogs.
I understand.
It's different. And that's why I say it would.
But you start to get to like Andy Dalton territory where it's like he's been to the postseason a bunch, but you haven't won.
You just compared Lamar Jackson with Andy Dalton.
I'm talking about postseason records.
I know. I'm just giving you a hard time.
How often do they talk about Lamar's ability to come back in games? He's got 2 wins when he's ever trailed? Two or 3 wins. Like those are things that, like
Stay
I said, Josh
his prime time stuff like that. That'll hang over you. That it's a constant thing that will come. No, I agree.
So that's, I do agree with you, Mike, because you almost want to nip this in the butt before it starts to get to, well, 2 years, 0-2, Josh Allen is 0-3 because you don't want to do that. So I agree what you're saying. It's like you almost have more pressure to get it done now before it becomes a thing. I don't think it's a thing yet, but you start to be like, well, the Bills lost as the 2 seed and, they had the lead in Houston and blew it. Like, I see what you're saying.
Yeah. And you said this wait for a year to get redemption from Houston. You don't want to be waiting another year.
No.
You do not. It's hard. And this season, things have gone so well. This team is prepared to win. I believe that. I think they're well coached. I think Allen has done it. But then you got to go out and do it, right? You got to go out and do it. And I think they're peaking at the right time, unlike, Jenna, the team they just played.
Yeah, the Patriots are a mess. That was a long post-game handshake between Bill Belichick and Sean McDermott. One of the longest I think we've probably ever seen. But when you look at the Patriots roster, I mean, there's no way Cam's coming back. What do you do with Stidham? There's so many questions. Yeah, a lot of guys opted out. But Dan, like that is a unfamiliar looking Patriots team.
Yeah, that's what a bad football team looks like. They looked like the Bills of the last 20 years. Like the roles were just completely reversed, and that's cliche, but like they're just bad. And whatever they want to say about Jared Stidham and he was going to be the guy that replaces Brady, like he's not the answer. Cam's not the answer. Like they're a bad football team, and I don't know, Mike. I know you are so convinced that Bill will get this right.
Well, he will.
Maybe, and he will, but it ain't going to be next year either. And it may not be in 2022.
Let me ask you this. If they had mediocre quarterback play this year, they might be a 8-win team. And that just he is.
But 11 wins may not get you in the playoffs in the AFC.
I know.
So like 8 wins is still mediocrity.
You're right. With nothing else. Now look, they're going to get rid of all 3 quarterbacks. I think they're starting new at the quarterback position. It's going to be very interesting to see if Josh McDaniels stays around, because this could be the year he decides to jump. Yeah. And we don't know what Belichick would do, but I think if this guy, after all his success, has needed motivation to hang in there and to keep going, maybe for 5 more, whatever it is that he decides to do, this is it, because he's got to be embarrassed with how his team ended up this year and just getting stomped on in a few games and being pitiful. Now, they have a lot of money. They won't go out and spend it on a single player. They will go out and get a veteran quarterback. I think they may even draft another quarterback. I think they will start to rebuild that team. They may even be forced to do something they don't like to do, which is to go out and get quality at those positions and maybe pay somebody a little bit more. But I think he's going to be he will be changing things a little bit to their normal way, because Brady obviously hit all their warts. And he's too good of a coach to let this go again. And I would say this, but you look at that division now, the Jets are in rebuild, and even a quarterback, or whether it's Darnold, it's still going to take a little while there, though they have some pieces. And we'll see about the Dolphins and Tua. This playoffs is going to show us a lot if they make it and what they do. But the Bills have clearly established themselves as the number 1 team in the division.
Well, when you look at dynasties, like the quarterback is the biggest piece of that, and the Bills have that. And like, I think the Dolphins are a talented team. I think it's safe to say, I don't think a lot of people expected them to make the playoffs this year, but that big question mark is Tua and what his status will be going forward, and if he can develop, or are they going to go to Ryan Fitzpatrick, or what they are going to do. They have a great defense, but at the same point, if you don't have a great quarterback, it's really not going to help.
Dan, the first step for Tua is to not get benched.
Twice.
Yeah. I respect Brian Flores probably as much as any other head coach. I've loved that he's benched Tua. I think that he is a guy that players love playing for. You think about how bad their team was last year and still managed to win 5 games. You talk about they don't have a single offensive. They don't have anybody on offense that has ever made the Pro Bowl. Like they are doing it with less than ideal talent. Like I know we talk about the Patriots and the lack of talent they have. They've got a couple of nice pieces, and Myles Gaskin and some of these other guys, and the wide receiver.
In the secondary, they got Byron Jones and Howard. I mean, they've got good defensive guys. Yeah.
on the defense, but they've still been able to, they play complementary football, and they play great special teams, and they're just coached well. That says a lot. Yeah. But I respect, I respect that Brian Flores wants to win every single game. He doesn't care. There's no backlash in the locker room when they bench Tua and then come to it and then go to Fitz again. And, you have this moment after the game where after Fitz leads this comeback and Tua's like over there hugging Fitz, like, thank you for saving me. I think Tua's what?
I would worry about that a little bit, that
Tua
seems to be a little accepting of getting benched.
No, I don't think it's accepting.
What
I think you wear it as accepting.
I want him to get a little angry. I want him to play better. And getting benched, yes, I understand this. In the short term, I think it helps the Patriots or the Dolphins. But in the long term, let's see. Look, if Tua becomes that guy, it's going to be credited that he sat him down and it ended up being a good thing and he came back better. It may be the case. But, they keep reinforcing that you're not good enough at the moment. And he's not.
Well, it's interesting. It's almost like they're ahead of schedule. Like they didn't, like Jenna said, I don't think a lot of people expect them to make the playoffs. I think they expected them to be a better team this year, but it's almost like they wanted to see what Tua could do, and then they got in a playoff race.
You're right. What did we say about the Bills last year? The team was better than Josh. Yeah. They were ahead of schedule. Now, if they get that, but Josh went through it all. Josh played in every one of those games, even when he got his head beat in, and then he went out and had that moment in the playoffs. Now, look, there's still got Tua in there, and he could come and tear the Bills apart Sunday and then beat them into playoffs. Like, we don't know what's going to happen. But if you're in this spot and you're benching him again and you're going with Fitz, it will be interesting to see how he reacts to it. People love the guy, and Daboll knows him, obviously, coached him for the year. And, everybody loves Tua, but let's see what he does. But in terms of the whole division, man, to have that quarterback who's going to be 25 next year, to have Diggs coming back, and to have a lot of things going that way is huge. Other than Daboll leaving to become the head coach of 5 different teams next year.
But it's something you talk about ahead of schedule too. Oh, go ahead, Jenna.
I was going to say one last thing on Tua is I just feel like you're playing with fire. Like the confidence of your young quarterback is something that I think a lot of times needs to be coddled a little bit more than people are willing to do. Brian Flores clearly wants to win, but I feel like at what expense do you kind of make the Tua question himself? I'm serious. Out on the field, he's going to be worried about throwing interceptions or whatever because he's going to get benched.
You better believe he's looking over his shoulder again on Sunday. Everybody's just guessing. At what point does Fitz come in the game?
Yeah, I agree.
I just think like coddling your quarterback is just such a weird thing that people make it out to be. Mike, Carson Wentz is all looking over his shoulder at Jalen Hurts. If you're not better than them, then you're not good. I don't know.
Yeah, it's a different circumstance. That's a bad team. Hold on. That's a bad team in a bad season. This is a playoff opportunity for the Dolphins. That's a team that's done. I mean, they're not winning anything. They're below 500, and Wentz had a terrible year, and it's been a different process for them. Tua is just starting out. And, again, this could end up being that great narrative in Miami, that Tua ends up learning from this, and he comes back next year, and he's stepped. I'm saying to you is I think Josh Allen, to Jenna's point, learned a lot in that playoff game in Houston from his failures. And I think 100%. It's almost like we're not going to let the kid fail because we're more worried about trying to win the game.
Yeah.
Oh, he's failed.
They rolled with Allen. They rolled with Allen. Like,
but Mike, he was failing.
To go to, but at the same point, like they were going to play Allen or not. It was Allen.
But Tua's failing, and they still were able to win. Like that's what I'm saying. Like,
but it wasn't him winning.
But they won.
I mean, they would have lost the other night. They would have lost.
Yeah, absolutely. I guess I'm just saying there that like,
and now you got him starting again when no one's saying a word. But you better believe there's players on that Dolphins team who believe Fitz should be starting.
I would be like that. I'd be like, why aren't we playing the guy that we know can win? What are we doing?
But Tua's 1-2. We act like Tua's 0-6. Yeah,
he's winning.
Like you said, that game like last weekend, he wasn't. If Fitz didn't come in and throw Fitz magic, they would not have won.
They would have lost. He completed 17 passes for 84 yards.
He made Trent Edwards look like a gunslinger. That was
no.
And
I
get all those things.
He's a rookie. It's a natural progression. I think if they do end up benching him in the second quarter, Fitz comes in. So picture this circumstance. Say he struggles against the Bills. And then in the third quarter, they bench him. Fitz comes in, throws a couple touchdowns, and the Bills end up winning the game 24-21. What'd you accomplish there? You didn't win. You benched your rookie. He didn't get any more of that experience. Again, hey, I'm saying this, and the Dolphins make the playoffs and go on a run, and they got two quarterbacks playing, and who knows how this ends up.
Yeah.
I just think the way the Bills did it, they didn't have another guy, I guess, in terms of who you were going to play.
Yeah.
Again, I was the one earlier this year, and I will say it. I didn't want the Bills to sign Cam Newton as a backup because I didn't want Josh Allen looking over his shoulder. I said, this is what you have in Josh Allen. I think it's a different dynamic in Miami and what they're doing and the head coach. And I think by him doing what he's done to Tua, it keeps everybody accountable. And I don't think they care whether it's Ryan Fitzpatrick or Tua in the huddle. I think that team is confident that they're going to get it done. And that's what I'm saying. You look at what, and again, it doesn't work for everybody, but Belichick and that nobody's bigger than the team. And that
Brady was.
Agreed, but
who was the quarterback?
Well, and who was the guy that got benched before the Super Bowl?
Yeah, that was a strange one. That's never really.
And they lost. And everybody's like, I can't believe Bill did it. You kind of get away with it. I'm not saying that Brian Flores is Bill Belichick or anything like that. But what Brian Flores is doing is different in Miami than what it is going on in other organizations.
To the point that Jenna made, he's the quarterback. The quarterback is different. The responsibilities are different. What's expected of him is different. The confidence, the leadership. Nobody is sitting there.
Chicago. It's not always a linear growth like Josh Allen.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. The Bills.
I would say that Josh Allen's growth was very much like it wasn't linear at all.
Well, it was linear in the fact that he got the starting job and kept it.
Okay, that's
and he played through the highs and lows.
Yes,
and the team.
There were highs and lows. It wasn't just all going up.
Oh no, it's rare that
his first year was good, his second year was bad, and now his third year is good.
Yeah,
Jenna.
He was okay. Yeah, I guess you're right. Well, in the moment, they felt very up and down. Macro, yes. Micro, it was not linear.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, the Dolphins, we'll have to wait and see. In terms of the playoffs, there are a lot of frisky teams in the AFC. Now, the Bills playing the Dolphins this upcoming week. Now, we do know for the Steelers, they play the Browns. The Steelers are having Mason Rudolph as their starting quarterback in week 17. Kind of means the 2 seed in terms of the playoffs. The Bills are in a good spot for that. But, Mike, I mean, there's the age-old rest versus rust debate. For the Bills, what would be your approach and why as the Bills look to, lock up a high seed, but also get ready for the playoffs and avoid injury?
I think the healthy starters should play, even if it's on a pitch count, limited number. Mm-hmm. You can adjust your roster this year because of all the practice squad guys and players you can bring up. So you could really fourth preseason game this thing if you wanted to. Mm-hmm. But I also want to see them play a little bit. And I think it's a mindset too. It's a good practice week. It is go play, split the snaps up. You want to give Barkley some snaps, that's fine. And let Josh get ready, let him play with those guys. Even if you take him out, I don't have a problem with them not playing the full 60 minutes, but I think they should play. And yes, the Steelers have made this move, so Ben's not going to
circumstance.
Yeah, Ben's not going to play. Yeah. So the Bledsoe and the Bills just need to win the game in order to make the playoffs, and the Steelers are resting their starters. Mm-hmm. It's 2004 all over again, Cleveland. Mm-hmm. You already lost to the Jets. You cannot lose to Mason Rudolph and the Steelers in the final game and miss and avoid your own playoff drought. You have to win that game. Mike Tomlin is handing it to you. You have to win that game.
Yeah, I think Sean McDermott, obviously, we're recording this podcast on Tuesday afternoon. Monday night, he said he wasn't going to He said he had to talk to Brandon Beane. He hadn't made a decision yet on resting starters, who would play, who would not play. Guys, I don't think he's going to tell us anyway. I mean, he doesn't tell us injury reports because he doesn't want to tip his hand. I don't think he's going to tip his hand until halftime. Like, I don't see the starters coming out before halftime. It'll be interesting. Jenna, I think that in a year where nothing has been consistent and routines are constantly broken, and it's been so hard to get in a rhythm, the Bills are in a rhythm right now with Josh Allen and Stephon Diggs, and I just don't see why you would change that heading into the game. Like you said, I don't think you change your pregame routine. I don't think you change your starters. If you want to make a wholesale hockey change at halftime, that's fine. But I just don't think that you go into this game with Josh just sitting on the bench when the Bills are pretty healthy. B, you probably need to get John Brown some reps because he's the one guy that hasn't played in 5 games. So you definitely want to get him acclimated back. But if you want to take Trey White out at halftime and see what you have with Dane Jackson and see what Levi can do, like all those things make perfect sense. If Cole Beasley's nicked up, he left the game a little bit early. Yeah. Rest him. That's fine. He's a veteran. He knows what he's doing. But I don't know, you treat this like the 3rd preseason game, like you really want to be playing well, like you treat this like the dress rehearsal, but I just don't think that you go out there and lay an egg, even though if the Bills lose this game, I will have drilled the season record of 12-4 that I had before the season. Yeah,
good point. I think you play it like it's a regular season game until you decide it's not. Meaning you go in. The whole approach should be that way. Look, we're telling Sean McDermott what to do. A year ago, when the game had no meaning in the standings, he sat his players. They went out and played a great first half in Houston and then fell apart. So they were ready to go when that game started. They walked right down the field. They threw the pass to Josh Allen for the touchdown. Everything was going great. It was the second half that caused them the problem. So you could make the argument they lost the game, but it had nothing to do with benching the guys the week before. I do think there's something to play for, and I don't think you want to be sitting in week 2 of the playoffs on a plane going to Pittsburgh when you could have been at home. And I think Pittsburgh doing this may, make it a little easier. I hate to say it, but like you look up on the scoreboard and it's 21-3 Cleveland. Sit down, Trey. Sit down, Josh. You know what I'm saying? Is I do think that plays into it. Yeah, they're playing at the same time.
I guess my question is, do you feel like if the Bills were to have to go to Pittsburgh, now I know that the COVID and traveling and stuff, that makes it very much a different place, but it's not going to be the same atmosphere as a normal traditional playoff game. So does it matter as much?
No, not as much, but it matters.
It matters.
It matters about your practice week. Think about the time spent just in traveling, right? All the things that go into that. Plus, the COVID part just adds that layer of anxiety with travel, getting everybody ready. What have we seen? Players come on a separate plane because of issues. They got to wait. Look at yesterday. We didn't find out who was the contact guy like John Brown until the day of the game, exactly when that was done. I think you take that out of the mix. I think you do, if it's at all possible. That doesn't mean you play Cole Beasley on one leg because you got to win the game. That means you play smart, but I'd still keep my starters out there.
Can I just make one comment about the John Brown thing? Classic 2020 in a nutshell. He's activated off the IR and is put right on the other list of COVID. Pretty impressive that nobody, that news never leaked out. They make the news the day before saying that TJ Yeldon had tested positive for COVID and he was placed on the list. And then we didn't hear anything. And all week we kind of thought that, they released Jake Kumerow, so that opened up the spot for wide receiver, to come in the game. Even ESPN's Jeremy Fowler tweeted earlier in the day that he didn't believe that Brown was going to be activated off the IR today. Like, again, that just goes to show you the difference that Rex Ryan had with just leaks coming out left and right.
Who would have thought?
And that Beane and McDermott have just closed one Bills drive, kept COVID out for the most part, has kept leaks out for the most part. We still don't know what happened with Quentin Spain. Still hasn't come out, whether that was, something drama or whatever.
Can't you two see Rex in a news conference where he's talking about, let's just use TJ Yeldon as the example, where he says, TJ Yeldon's out. We we can't say what it is. Can't you just see him doing that?
Yeah.
I mean, we're, like, or whatever it happens
a
to
Clemson
be.
helmet.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
He would be the guy that had Zoom calls this year that he'd have like beach backgrounds behind him or like outer space. Like he'd be like, "Hey guys, thought I'd take a visit today to see the land."
Yeah. Well, let me tell you what the other thing about this is. If he was still coaching the team, we wouldn't be worried about playoff seeding.
Yeah.
We'd be talking about the draft. So that's the way it goes.
I'm glad we got Rex in this podcast. Really glad about this. Well done, guys.
Rex. I could see that, Dan. I'm picturing that him like with the beach background being like, "Oh, I'm sorry, guys. I'm on vacation today." Like, okay, Rex.
Yeah, I can't because of COVID. I can't get to the beach, so I thought I'd put myself in the beach.
Oh, God.
On a different note, you can check out more Buffalo Plus content for Bills as they get ready to take on the Dolphins. Week 17. I can't believe it's already week 17.
Yeah. And I say we'll make our picks later in the week. And we got to see who's going to play because it'd be a very different thing. But
yeah,
regular season champ.
No, yeah. I can't.
11-2 in my last bet, 13 bets, so we're cool.
Yes, the bets have been great. Dan, the dominant Rochester better, no question about it. Nobody's even in the stratosphere of picking games the way Dan does. And Jenna had the tweet of the night, so we're all in good shape.
Okay, look at that. Look at us.
Wait,
yeah.
Jenna, was that your tweet or was it Mike's?
It was. Well, we worked on it together.
Collaborative effort.
Should I tweet it? Do we tweet it? And then we tweeted it.
Oh, God.
Like, how do you say it? How should I type it? What's the phrase?
I am a ghostwriter. Jenna's Twitter
Social
account.
media guru, Mike Catalana.
If Jenna ever has a great tweet, Mike had something to do with it.
That is, in fact, not a lie, actually. He's very good at social media.
On Jenna Cottrell's Twitter.
He cannot operate a video camera to save his life, but he's quite good.
Are you at 10K?
Yes.
Yeah, I hit 10K.
Followers are following her. Oh, there we go.
I'm gonna have some wine or something to celebrate tonight. Gotta celebrate after the newscast. All right. Well, thanks for joining us, everyone. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Be sure to check out our other stuff on buffaloplus.com. It's all Bills all the time. For Mike Catalana and Dan Fetes, I'm Jenna Cottrell. We'll catch you next time.